3, 2, 1, showtime!
CO, hello, I'm Cade Thomas, and welcome to the 39th episode of Double Feature Movie Club. This week, we're talking two interesting films, both from 2018, both from female writer-directors, and we billed it as coming of age. It's a little bit questionable whether or not the second one would be called that, but it's, you know, it's that's what we're calling it. One is a stoner comedy, and one is a psychological horror, so interesting films we have to discuss here, and I am joined this week, as always, with my co-host Diane and our guest returning from just a few episodes ago, artist Spencer Plumlee. So, hello, welcome.
Hi.
How are you both doing?
Good.
Good.
It's good to see you, Cade. Good to
Yes.
see you, Spencer.
It's good to see you
I'm
both.
so glad
Good
you
to be
can-
back. So
Yes,
I'm
we're
so
glad to have
you
you.
could join us.
Yeah, so soon, too. After.
yes, very soon. That's fine. That's good.
One thing I wanted to mention that we did not talk about at all. We talked about off air before, but we didn't mention on the show is that Spencer and I, we went to college together, and we had a failed film club together. That's how we know each other. We tried
Did you say failed?
failed.
We were just seniors, right? So
Yeah,
we started it as soon as we were leaving, and we're like, okay, good luck, everyone. And then just
Yeah, we were
Didn't do well.
so one of the professors was like, we want to start this, and we want people to be interested, and we were like, it was so many committee meetings, it was a lot of lead up for what ended up just being one event, and then we were out. So we had met weeks, it was months of planning of what is this going to be, and what do we want this to be, and what film do we want to launch with, and what are some ideas, and we went through a whole board of here's possible things and all that, for it to end up we watched Fight Club. So we ended up watching was Fight Club.
Yep.
And
And we watched Sorry to Bother You too. We watched that too.
So
Oh, that's a good
we
one.
watched.
That's a good
you're right.
I
forgot
love
about
both of those. But you're right. It was months of planning for 2 movies.
Yes, I forgot about that. Yes, we did watch. Yeah, Sorry to Bother You, which I do love that movie a lot too. But it was it was a lot. It was a lot of planning, and through that I remember because I hosted the moderation for the for Fight Club, and I was really enjoyed talking with Spencer about that film and all that. And one of the ones what I loved is during we all had to bring 3 possible films as films to talk about, and one of Spencer's, I remember this to say because this is one of the films that is very impactful to me from a young age, and I've never really heard anyone just openly talk about it. And one of your 3 was Death Becomes Her, and I was immediately like,
I love that movie.
Yes,
One of my favorite movies of all time. It's so good. Yeah.
It's a classic.
I love that film, and I love that there was and I've sort of looked back at it. I mean, there was a little subgenre in that time period of these female-led like weird kind of fantasy / supernatural, some weird, like, I mean, because it's almost in the same vein as like Witches of Eastwick in a lot of ways.
Right.
And there's a lot of those of that. There's only a few, like She Devil. There's a few of these that are like of that time period and of women of that age. And
Yeah,
but I love Death Becomes Her.
that's another one.
What was the one you said?
Same. I'm glad. I think it's called Jumping the Broom.
Oh,
Have you guys watched
Yeah.
that one? Yeah, similar,
Yeah.
similar vibes.
yeah. But yes, that was when I was like, oh, okay. I think that will match up good and everything. And then we graduated, and then we never really talked again. But I've then followed you and saw all your art that you've done and everything, and it's great.
Same with podcast, all the things, but never said hi again for whatever reason.
So now
I'm
Diane
Mm-hmm.
happy you reached.
has her list of questions she's going to ask you about your art. So
Yeah, I do. I really, I asked Cade to send me a link right to your information. Of course, he didn't, but easy to find. After I did listen to the podcast you were on, and he did link that into the Twitter universe where I reside, and so I was able to find your art from there. So I do have some questions. One is, first off, what's your inspiration? I mean, when did you decide I'm going to paint this or sketch this, or you just multimedia artist that you are?
That's a great question. I mean, it might sound cliche to say this, but I've been painting and drawing forever. I mean, since I was probably like 4. And so I've just continued to process life and cope with life through art. And
Sorry about
kinda
that.
grown along. Very good. It's just sort of grown along with me. All art inspires like my art, all the art that I've ever seen. Van Gogh's a big inspiration. Edward Hopper, Manet, Bernini, all the Botticelli. All of those greats. But yeah.
You can see some of the inspiration in your work. Do you have any shows right now where people can go and see your work? Or any
I don't
coming
have
up?
any right now, but I have a solo show coming up in September, and I have an artist market on April 29th and one on May 22nd that I'm also doing. And yes, that's all right now. But yeah, a solo show in September at the studio in Tulsa, but that's the main one.
Yeah. So when you say artist market, where's this at?
That one is also going to be at Colmia's. The one on the 29th will be at the Colmia's studio where they have all the plants. They have like a maker's market. So there'll be lots of different types of vendors out there. And then the one on the 22nd, I have a live painting at the Hunt Club Tulsa. So I'll be painting a burlesque show live. So I'm excited. I do a lot of the live paintings, and it's really fun. Yeah.
That
So I'm
would
excited.
be fun to see. Kate, you should go see that.
Okay.
If you've never been to a burlesque, first off, you need to go because they're fun. They're always a good time. And that would be fun.
Diane keeps wanting to
To
go
see.
out to
Okay.
events and things, so
I keep trying to get Kate out of, get away from, the computer, I know.
Got a lot of projects I'm working on, but but we do need to do more.
When would I have time for that? Yeah. On top of your job, which is, a media event in of itself most of the time. So,
Sure.
I do know that you are also part of the Living Arts organization here in Tulsa? Because we've had some friends show photographs.
I've worked with them a lot. I have a mural up there permanently right now in the alleyway, and they invite me to come to different shows pretty often. I've done a couple of their podcasts too with like Jeff Chrisman, and I've done a couple of like window murals for them that were temporary, but yeah.
Do you have any other murals on display in Tulsa right now? or anywhere, I guess I
I
should say.
I have one in East Central High School, and I also have one in Lefties on Greenwood downtown too. I have the whole back like wall and like where the hallway is to go to the bathroom. Like there's like 4 murals up in that hallway. That's me. But that's it.
How cool is that? So at East Central, where's it at? Is it in the new Y?
It
Is it?
it's in one of the communications classrooms downstairs. It's like it's in one of the media classrooms.
Diane
So
knows East Central
Okay.
very well.
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I went to school there. Yeah. Yes.
My friend
I know. I
my
can't
friend
believe
Brooke,
you're.
sorry, go.
Go ahead. Your friend Brooke.
Brooke, I don't know if you know Brooke Randall. She used to work there, and it was her classroom, and she was one of the media like teachers there. And so like professional development teachers, etc. It was her classroom, but yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, this is how people get to really get to experience your work, right? So I know we have a huge mural at the Will Rogers Museum that goes in down all the stairs and through the tunnel to the children's portion of the museum. And a lady in Claremore did that mural, and she was part of the Ropers, but she's like in her 80s, and she did that entire mural all the way down through there. So we'll have to give them your name if it ever needs to be touched up or redone. Anyway, sorry, I went off.
I just love that's how you get to like that back panel. I won't say how, but that is how you get to that back room and everything. And it's the way that they incorporate that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's public information, so I won't say, but but that is
it's all hidden back there.
It's all hidden back there. So
behind the mural.
Behind the mural. That's cool. I'm glad to have you back on, Spencer. I appreciate you doing this and everything.
And I'm really glad to meet you. Like I said, I was a huge fan of your work before I even knew it was you. Mm-hmm. Who had done the work. So,
thank you. That means a lot. I'm happy to be here again, and I'm happy you saw some of it. Out in the wilds.
It was out in the wild for sure. Anyway, we won't make Cade go down that rat path because he gets. Tired of it for me, for sure.
No, it's fine. Well, great. Our 2 films that we're discussing here today are both from 2018. We've said it before. Would you consider them both coming of age or neither one? Or one or the other?
I feel like Never Going Back was probably the closest to a coming of age movie. It felt more like a slice of life than anything. But
what would be the connective tissue of these 2 films then? Succinct.
There was a blonde and a brunette.
Female experience. I don't know.
How about
female experience double feature?
Yes.
Relationships, female friendships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Female friendships would be that would have been a good one. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I came up with that.
Drug-induced female friendships.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's a preview to what we're about to talk about here today. So yes, first one's Never Going Back from 2018. Later we'll talk about Braid, also from 2018. But first, Never Going Back, Diane will give the plot of Never Going Back after this little musical interlude.
Okay, Never Going Back is a movie about 2 high school dropouts who decide to spend their rent money that they made earning, waiting tables on a trip to the beach. And after their, I think, brother and roommate loses his part of the rent uh, by trying to become a drug dealer, these two stoner girls try to recoup the money from ever increasing desperate capers throughout this movie. So I think someone had said earlier this is a girl stoner movie. Stoner movies must be a new genre for me. It certainly was for me. For girls to be stoners, it's kind of disappointing because I'm an old feminist. But um, that's all I'm going to talk about this part of the movie. Other than that, it is a movie about girlfriends and their relationships, and I think this particular movie, if you look at it from that perspective, becomes a good prospect. Cade, help me out here. It's not my genre, man.
Yeah, I think it falls in the line of a stoner comedy of being that like they have a simple task at hand and it is drawn out over, a long, like what's seemingly accomplishable, but it's drawn out over a feature length of film. And there's side characters, so it does follow in that, I think, the footsteps of a stoner comedy.
We were talking earlier about Death Becomes Her, which is of Eastwick, Thelma and Louise. This is the early 90s. These are female-led movies of the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see that we've come such a long way, in
Fried green tomatoes.
movies.
We were talking about
in
Kathy
comedy, Bates. Yes. Yeah. We've gone from... So it's small wonder we're seeing some rights stripped away from us, but neither here. I digress. What did you think of this movie, Cade? I'm going to start with you and give you a chance, Spencer, to jump on Cade, whatever he says.
I liked this movie a lot. I did. I thought it was incredibly funny and incredibly. I loved all the characters. I thought every single character was, from a comedic perspective, written and performed brilliantly. It is. I really thought it was a impressively written comedy from a character perspective and from all of the ensemble. I loved each and every one of the minor characters that came through and everything. I mean, knock at it. It's a little bit too much gross out humor for my taste, but I still, at the end of the day, really, really enjoyed it a lot. I had a really fun time with it, and there were certain scenes that were just absolutely hysterical, and the situations and things I thought was really great. Both of these movies started out in a place of like, oh boy, what have I, forced people to watch? but I did enjoy it. I mean, that's what the love of these movies, what we do here is we haven't seen these movies beforehand. So these have appeared on lists of things that people enjoy, and we've tried to find pairings and stuff. So don't know what we're getting into each time, but at the end of the day, I'm very happy I saw this film. Spencer, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, I think you said it really well too. I think all the characters were really well written, for a very like character heavy kind of situational type of comedy, and even the side characters that ended up turning into like main characters, like the older man, everything was a little Easter egg that I kept wanting to see like over and over again and just keep exploring like all the individual characters even more. But yeah, it was a really rich world that was hilarious. And I enjoyed watching it as well. I wasn't really sure what types of like payoff were going to happen, because the stoner comedy genre kind of leads you down a rabbit hole of like what is actually going to be the end of this. Like, can it end? Will it end? And I think it delivered pretty well. And I think it showed like contemporary poverty really well, and colorfully and with, I don't know, with levity in a sense because of how ridiculous the characters were and kept continuing to be. But yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, and like youth poverty, I don't think that's really been sort of explored as well. I haven't ever seen it really explored as well as in this movie. I thought it was, and still through the lens of comedy.
Yeah, maybe have you all seen 13?
Not
With Okay, I'm trying to think of the name of the girl that dated Marilyn Manson for a long time is in it. I'm forgetting her name. But it kind of shows youth, poverty, and just like it's like a scarier coming of age movie about like really destructive 13-year-olds. So this is kind of like a lighter, more colorful, like fun version of that kind of similar storyline. So I feel like that's another good example of kind of a younger girl coming of age drug movie.
Interesting. Diane, what'd you think about this movie?
I cannot believe I marched for equal rights. I I think it's great that we are equal to the point that we can have female stoner comedy movies now. I guess that's the best way to put that, right? Although the male stoner comedies were never that enticing to begin with, right? So I think I
I
think
think it's
from the
probably
perspective
from
of
a. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. This is your time.
well, I really like the relationship between these two girls. I think that it comes across as a real girlfriend relationship, right? They have good chemistry, the two lead actresses. They come across as real friends. There is always that one friend that's just going to get you in trouble no matter what you do, right? And there's always going to be that one friend that's a little more sensitive to things around him and trying to be more level headed, but easily led down the wrong path. So I think that that's true in friendships a lot of times, and I think that they really portrayed that well. And if there's, I think to me that's the most positive part of the movie. You guys have already talked about the supporting cast. Obviously, they're always good. I my favorite part of the movie though were all the crazy things these two girls did to get out of going to work, right? And they did that to get out of going to high school because obviously they dropped out of high school. They have no desire for a future at all. So, but to hit themselves with a brick, to lay in a bed of fire ants. Now, I know you guys are from here. I lived in Texas. I have been bitten by fire ants. So let me tell you, that is pure hell or torture, I should say. So to do that to get out of going to work to me is like, dang, girl. You're the bomb, man. I don't know how you did that.
It's in retrospect. It's they do that because they missed work and they have to come up with an excuse as to why yeah.
We couldn't just say we got thrown in jail. Yeah.
Well, in those cases, it was probably that they did something stupid and they end up missing work, and then they had to do. Okay. Ava's in the chat. She said, "Counterpoint. I didn't find anything I liked in this movie."
Yeah.
That's an interesting counterpoint.
There were parts of it that had some. Yeah. There's parts of it that had some payoff to it that I thought was pretty funny. I mean, the whole deal of her not being able to go to the bathroom. I mean, we all have a girlfriend that can't go to the bathroom. When you travel together or whatever, they can't go to it's just part of the deal. And she played that great, right? And I kept thinking, what is the payoff going to be? Oh, it paid off. That gag did pay off there. I don't want to give it away, but it did pay off.
And that was the one part of it. It was like, well, that went a little bit far excessive, but that's, but I mean, at the same time, it made sense within the movie that they were creating and everything. I thought that this movie balanced really like dumb, lowbrow humor with like really smart, insightful kind of, interesting takes and stuff. So I thought it really did a really interesting balancing act. Because from a comedy perspective, a lot of the comedy is incredibly thoughtful and incredibly like that is well like paced and it's almost methodical in the way that it lays out when comedy elements are going to happen. It is incredibly smart, and then it's funny how that's balanced with stuff that's very just incredibly lowbrow. But it knows like the pacing of it is excellent. This movie is paced. I just think one of the best paced movies I've seen from a comedy perspective in a long time.
And then the few stoner movies that I've actually seen, I think these girls have bigger balls than most of the guys that I've seen in stoner movies. I mean, the things that they'll do is more ballsy. Let me put it that way. But anyway, all that said, I'm not a fan of this genre. Obviously, this is just so painful. This is like they're going to send us back to the days where we couldn't have credit cards if we keep this up.
Well, don't you think it's good that they can do the sort of thing, like that they can be sort of comedic people that, like, I mean, it's better version of these. It's a better version of Harold and Kumar. It's a better version of Cheech and Chong. I think this is better than those, which is an insane thing to say. I think amongst stoner things, it's a incredibly well made film.
Okay. See, it's a genre that you guys enjoy. That
I don't
I'm kind of with
particularly
Ethan
enjoy
there
it.
on that. I never laughed. I mean, there wasn't anything that made me laugh, but I didn't fall asleep either, so that's good.
When they go to the diner and they're so high out of their minds, and they're like, this lady knows that we're high. Like, that is one of the most hysterical scenes I've seen in a while. That is
when they're just like talking to themselves, and it pans over, and their boss is like 2 feet away. Hilarious. Like,
yeah,
that they're commenting on the screensaver. The fact that the screens, yeah, and they're like, why do they have like that?
Obviously, you've never done drugs.
No,
I totally related. That looked totally normal to me. But
what looked totally normal?
It was funny. Yeah.
What took?
Never mind, Kate.
Okay. No, I mean, no. I'm saying that there was within the genre. This is the type of genre that they do, and these are the trappings of, and are the things that they have to, the tropes that they have, and so, right. But they play it, I think, incredibly funny, and it's all that those performances are extraordinary. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of notes for this film. I have that. I love the characters. Each character is really extraordinary. I love
you said that
the roommates and all, and the fact that what the guys in it were really, I thought, really funny. I thought Kyle Mooney, his role was incredibly funny.
It's similar to what he's done on Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
True. I think they did a good job of like comparing male and female friendships, like within the same scenarios, just like all the different interactions between them and just comparing the two the whole time for me was really hilarious. And I think they did that pretty well, and pretty like subtle in a sense, like not too over the top and like focus, but it was still there, and they did a great job at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'd never see one of those girls go and rob the other one.
Yeah. Right. And then that was just okay, and they forgive it. He's just part of the group again, and it's, yeah.
So do you think that they finally made it to the beach? Yeah. So do you think they finally made it to the beach?
Does it matter to the story? I mean, it's left open or whatever. They could not.
That's what it opened with.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the one line where she said, "I would kidnap you and take you to Mexico before I would let you go back to Arkansas."
Yeah,
I did like
she has a breakdown, and she's like, "I'm gonna have to move back in with my grandparents in Arkansas." There's a lot of really funny things. I love that, it takes, like, the setting of it is really fun. The fact that it's in this Texas community, and it's middle of deep summer, and then that they're that like air conditioner, they're like all that stuff of just how it how that feels in this area of just like how overwhelmingly hot it is and everything. It's just all just a bunch of interesting things. The fact that they have to wash these waitress outfits, like in the comedy that ensues there, and how they go around to having to go around to these different things. I found it incredibly fun. I don't know. I really did like it a lot.
But you also graduated from high school. So, I mean, it's kind of like,
Okay.
Didn't you get from this movie, yeah, I better stay in school because I don't want to end up like these people? I mean, this poverty they are in, it, they brought on themselves, let's face it. So, I mean, it is. I agree, Spencer. It's a slice
Maybe.
of life. But
Yeah.
I think it's a fair sort of thing to. That's an interesting sort of thing to talk about, is because of, like, they're. I don't know. I mean, you can look at that and however you want to sort of say that. I mean, they're somewhat being forced to go down a track in their life. I think a lot of young people feel like that they just want to take themselves out of that whole thing because they don't want to do all that, and they won't want to be have that stuff being forced onto them and everything like that. So just you were going to remove yourself from that equation.
Next time you go to a truck stop and a middle-aged woman is waiting on you, right? Keep in mind that she made that same choice too 20 years earlier, right? This isn't a new thing, in other words, right? So, yeah, that's the thing that it got me. I was like, you know what? They should show this to, high school sophomores. Say, you could be doing this. And look, look what
I don't think that would have the impact that you think it would have, Diane.
I don't know.
This was the kind of they seemed like they had a fun time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Those uniforms were pretty gross.
They were. I thought they did a great job of, like, I feel like a lot of other, like, stoner comedies do, like, it goes more like jumping over the shark really early, And I feel like they did a good job of keeping all of the problems really down to earth, while still
point.
being just violently high, the entire time, even, like, against their wishes, So I thought that was an interesting new take that I haven't really seen a lot in the stoner genre. Most of the time it's like, oh, our friend died, let's smoke our best friend, to pass college, like all these things, you know what I mean? Like, it gets really fantastical. And so it was kind of cool just to be like, they're just high and doing real life.
Yeah, and they're trying to.
Well, and the guys and the stoner guys and the stoner girls ultimately did come up with the same final caper to get the money when you think about it.
That was hysterical. That was all hysterical. That the third act of that movie, like, with the setup to all of that, is pretty great. Like, that to have all of your threads go into, like, this very, like, a small stakes in a lot of ways. I mean, like, but all the threads to come to one place. I thought really great. I thought that just set it in a little sandwich shop. Your third act was smart. I mean, that's really well constructed. It's a well constructed film. I want to talk about the sort of slice of life of it all. I think that it did that part of its subgenre very well, and how it really it explored this little time period in these people's lives very cool, and it's very natural. It all seemed very natural, but still elevated for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys have any other notes that you want to say? Any other scenes that popped out to you? Any other things? I don't think. I don't know.
I think if you went back and found these two girls 6 months later, they will be hookers.
Diane, did you not? I don't know. What did you hate about this movie, Diane? So much. Don't think we've dug into what's so awful that you hate about this film.
Yeah. There's oh man, how do I even say this? There are a lot of female-led movies that I loved, like Neon Demon. We'll talk about the next movie coming up. I mean, there are a lot of female-led movies that I absolutely love. I absolutely hate movies that degrade women. And this, to me, in a lot of sense, these girls, yeah, they're struggling. I get it, that they're impoverished, but they put themselves in this situation, and everything that they're going to do to try to get out of it is making it even worse. So you don't end up in that place at the end where you think there's any hope for them at all coming out of this. I mean, yeah, we get to see them frolicking on the beach and eating donuts, but we know that's a dream. They never made it to the beach. And maybe we don't care. I don't know. To me, it's like, couldn't we care just a little bit? I'm on my high horse here these days, so
I know, but like,
forgive me.
You see the other people in that world, and the world, there's no escaping it. The people that are supposed to be the good people,
There isn't.
there's no good people in it. There's no positive. You see there's a homeless man.
Yeah,
there's the guy their boss isn't happy. He pretty much says that he's not happy. Her quote unquote mom is a prostitute. Like there's no escaping within the world that this movie takes place in. No one's happy, and it is finding these sort of moments in these people that you're around that find the momentary happiness, which that's sort of the theme of the movie. And
it's so I would never go watch this movie. Why would I care about watching a bunch of unhappy people create more unhappiness for themselves and no way out of it at all?
That's kind of like the irony of it, though, because it is such like a rich comedy, you know. So it's like all of this unhappiness that just breeds just ridiculous comedy after different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is, I think, one of those rare times, Cade, where it's generational. Stoner movies were not big when I was you guys' age because they're, came out like after.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You had Cheech and Chong, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we listened to him on records and stuff like that.
Rodney Dangerfield.
So. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are things. But
yeah, they're definitely comedies, but just the dumbass, you're never going to accomplish anything, you're pretty worthless kind of people. Comedies is it's a little tough to watch. It's maybe because it's not men. These are women. And right now, in this particular time of our of where we are at, this is not a good. It's not a good look for us. I know. Yeah. And again, generational. I'm a little overly sensitive about that too, because I'm seeing so many things that my generation fought so hard for becoming, no big deal. We can get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Let's just be waitresses. What? Yeah. Sorry. Oh, this stupid camera, Kate. Really. Seriously. It is really held on by toothpicks and paper clips. Well, anyway, I'll get off.
That's a interesting perspective, Diane.
Hey, if we were all here to agree, why have the movie club, right?
No, I agree.
True. Yeah.
Well, great.
I think it's generational.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's good to have women in the roles that men used to occupy in a it's a fun so.
Yeah. Trust me, these two girls, they didn't even make 70% of what every guy who's ever played this role before them didn't make it. So
well, maybe in 1970s money. Who knows? Yeah. They probably made what they made.
Maybe. No, they actually, trust me, they made more money than I did in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That was real property then. Yeah.
No, but no. Okay, well, great. I will.
Not anything else to say. I don't know that there's anything to add. Right? To the movie. I mean, nobody dies, right?
Yes,
except for maybe the boomer. He might have died. He might have had a heart attack from what happened to him.
We don't really know if he lived or not. I guess that's true.
We're really taking into
and we don't care.
We really hope that she knows how to check a pulse. Yeah, that's what we're. I guess how.
I don't think that we care.
I hear you on the feminism parts of it, but I feel like a lot of it was more about just this endless cycle of poverty. Like every time they tried to make every right choice, it didn't matter. Like it just kept them going around in the same kind of loop of hell. And so it was almost like no matter what they did, it was like at least they were high, because everything else never worked out, which seems to be like a theme in a lot of different stoner movies, but especially this one.
Yeah, and if they were going to lose the one job that either one of them were qualified to do, yeah, it was good that that was the best drugs that they were on, I guess. Yeah, because then they didn't have to experience actually losing that job.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well,
I still can't believe they hit themselves with a brick.
I know.
That's just like, whoa, okay.
yeah. The yeah, no. I guess we'll go into recommendations and ratings. Spencer, we'll start with you. Would you recommend this movie and what would you rate it?
I would recommend this if you like stoner genre. I would recommend it. I think it's like it's a good fresh comedy on that I hadn't seen a part of this genre in a very long time. I would rate it 6 hot dogs out of 10.
Okay.
No, you know the one.
Hot
Coney
dogs.
Islanders.
Emoji. Well, great. You said 6. Okay, great. The here we are. 6. This is so fun. There's your 6 hot dogs.
Oh my gosh.
You know which
Yeah.
you know which hot dogs.
I'll put it down here.
Yeah.
The great.
You know that somebody didn't just come up with that. They've actually seen that on porn somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh, the hot dog. I didn't even register what you were saying. Okay, I know what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, where was there hot dogs in this movie? I'm like, oh yeah. Took a little bit for me there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has mustard and everything, so that's good. Diane, what would you recommend? Would you recommend this movie? Would you recommend this movie, Diane? And what would you rate it?
Well, I think if you like watching dumb boys in stoner movies, and that's your kind of thing, and you want to see girls who are much better looking than the stoner boys, let's face it, you might really enjoy this movie.
One of them dated Leo. She was Leo's young lover for some time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Some of his Leo's jailbait.
Diane.
Well,
I have no idea.
it's Leo.
Yeah.
Well, I
Anyway.
didn't know that it was her.
I don't know which one it was, but I could guess. Anyway, so yeah, if you like that kind of genre, I thought it was a well-made movie, and people who get those kind of gags and enjoy that kind of degradation of people, then great, yay! It's a great movie. For anyone else, though, if you like or not into that kind of stuff, then you might not enjoy this one too much. I don't know. Could be wrong. I would give this one a sandwich. I know I usually stick with drinks, but they didn't have any Arizona tea out there for an icon. But we did see a pretty massive sandwich in there. So I was going to go hot dogs, but the sandwich shop that the girls were going to do a 3-way with the guy in order to get his money, and then they got robbed by their roommates. So yeah, give it a sandwich.
That scene where he's where he's been hitting on this whole time, and the fact that they all of a sudden turn and they're actually like, okay, sure, giving him exactly what he does, and he does not know how. It's like a dog chasing a with it. And so he's like, he has no idea how to respond to the fact that was one of the funniest scenes I had seen in a while too. That was absolutely hilarious. Spoiler alert for that.
I think he does that role really well. He does that role really well.
Yes.
Kyle. Maybe,
Kyle Mooney. Yeah, Kyle Mooney was really great in this. And he's only in it, a little bit. But he's his scenes that he's in is pretty great.
I hope he didn't quit his Saturday Night Live gig for that movie.
Yeah. And I've mentioned before, Bixby Bear is one of my favorite things, and he was the star of that. That's a really great movie if you haven't seen that. He's the star of it. He's great. So I would highly recommend this movie. I thought it was incredibly funny. I mean, I guess it goes down into what type of humor you like. I'm not even a stoner comedy fan. I really don't like the genre a whole lot. I think the humor is often very too lowbrow and not well constructed. And this is an incredibly well constructed comedy film. Everything moves at this really excellent pace, and that each section has some really good pacing and really good knowledge of how to create a scene from a comedy perspective. It is endlessly entertaining. But there are some things, I mean, I can't endorse everything in this film, and there are some problems in it. But I think overall it really shines, and the performances are extraordinary. Such a brilliantly cast film. Each one of these characters are so well cast, and they hit all of the comedic things that they need to excellently. But I guess that's a generational thing. I think this is funnier than any sort of comedy I've seen in a long time. It's funnier than any Marvel movie's ever been. I've laughed harder at this film than any sort of studio comedy I've seen.
I would have never thought of a Marvel movie as a stoner comedy.
No, it's not even. I'm just not.
Which Marvel movie would be?
I'm not calling it a stoner comedy. I'm calling it just a comedy. I think that this is genuinely a funnier film than I've seen a studio put out in a long time. This is, and I've laughed more. Studio? No, it's not. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not. I'm saying in comparison to studio comedies, this is hilarious. And I wish more comedies lean this way. I think that it is genuinely incredibly funny. I gave this movie a dolphin, giant dolphin.
A dolphin.
Make it that big. Dolphin.
I have to tell you, I thought Everything Everywhere All at Once was 1,000 times better than this movie, but it's just comedy.
Okay. I don't know what the.
I mean, you were talking about.
I'm going to compare it to the greatest film of all time. One of the greatest films of all time. Well, I don't know about you, but I think Citizen Kane's better than this movie, Cade. I don't.
Well, you were talking about the best comedy you've seen in a long time, and I'm like, wow.
Well, it's not a studio film. I'm comparing it to studio films. This is also
studio films.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why would you do that? It's not in a studio film, is it?
I'm saying that the more studios need to move this way in this style, because I think that if they're going to do studio comedies, this is funnier than Hangover. This is funnier than any of these things like that. I mean, I think if I had to compare it to the comedy of anything, it's kind of similar to Booksmart in a lot of ways. I think that I think it has it's cut from the same cloth as that. So if you like Booksmart, you'll love this movie.
Actually, I would have recommended Booksmart over this movie by a long shot. But these girls might be the same age, but it's a different experience that the girls in Booksmart are going through than these girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, great.
But yeah, I would recommend Booksmart in a heartbeat. That was a great movie. But it wasn't a studio movie, was it?
No, I don't think. Well, it might have been like a Fox or something.
True. Olivia Wilde did it. So I don't know if she went through a studio.
Yeah.
I have it back here. Let's see what it is. It is it's a 20th Century Fox.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fox did some things like that. I think Edge of 17's another Fox Searchlight. Might be a Searchlight one, but it's still under the Fox umbrella. So yeah, I mean there are some times in which they do a good job and everything, but I thought it was a really great film. I was shocked by how I thought I wasn't going to like it at all. I thought we were going to get a rerun of. I don't even remember what that movie that we watched was. I forget what that movie was called. The other movie that we watched that was
Upstream.
The Bling Ring.
No, well, the Bling Ring. It's better than Bling Ring. No, the one with Zoe Deutsch and Catherine Hahn. That one, the one that we watched previously on the show. I thought we was going to get more in line with that. Flower. I thought it was going to be more like Flower, but it was much better.
Oh, Flower, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you go, everything's all about expectations, right? Mm-hmm. If you go into this movie thinking you're going to see Flower, it's going to be on that line. This movie's 1,000 times better than Flower.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, yeah.
But I still think Booksmart's a lot better than this one. So
yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, But anyways, we've talked about this movie enough. We will move on to our next film, also from 2018, called Braid. It's a psychological horror, also from a female writer-director. We'll get into the plot in just a moment, and then we will review the film after this short intermission. Grab something from the concession stand.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. All these delicious treats are waiting for you at the refreshment stand. Delicious fresh popcorn, ice-cold cola, and candy you know and love. They're all ready for you now, so you won't have to miss any of the feature. Come and get them.
And now, on with the show.
Okay, here is the plot of 2018's Braid. Paraphrasing a little bit from Google, but it was written and directed by Mitzi Perrone. I'd imagine that's how it's pronounced. Braid tells the story of Petulia and Tilda, two young women who are wanted by the law after they lose their drug stash when raided by the police. Low on cash and in need to recoup their losses, they decide to steal from their wealthy and mentally unstable childhood friend, who lives in a like a fantasy world within her head. To get her money, they must take part in, this is the quote here, deadly and perverse games of make-believe in a sprawling yet decaying estate. That's better than I could have ever worded it. As things become increasingly hallucinatory and violent, the duo soon realize that obtaining the cash may be the least of their concerns. See how tantalizing that sounds? Someone's job it is to write those, and it's better than I can do.
Yeah,
that's Braid.
It's a hard movie to describe.
To describe. That's why I wanted to
describe.
I wanted to. Yeah, I did the first part because I didn't really go into the how the plot talked about that description talked about the house and everything. I'm like, well, we need to know the setup a little bit. So anyways, that is Braid. I think we started. Who did we start with last time? I guess we'll start with Spencer this time. Spencer, did you did you like this movie? What'd you think about this movie?
I did not like this movie really. It was just, I don't know. It seemed complicated, overcomplicated, and strange in a way that didn't like pan out. Like there can be a movie that is weird and good, and there can be a movie that is weird and not good. You know what I mean? Like in ways that doesn't further it in any way, and maybe that was the point, that they were going insane, so they're continuing to do very similar things over and over and over again, and it starts to really like decay the world and the world that we thought the movie was being placed in. So maybe that was the point, but it seemed to kind of like oversell that in a way that didn't feel I don't know, that didn't feel good. That didn't feel that felt like painful to watch in a sense. Like it was just, I don't know, you know, like it was just kind of slow, and I wish that it was a little bit a better pace, and I don't know, maybe I wish that it made more sense in certain spots. You know, like I said, maybe that's the point. Maybe like I get that that's maybe the point, but that doesn't mean that it was a good movie just because it was confusing in certain spots, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Diane, did you like this movie?
You know, I have to. There are components about this movie that I loved. That the scenery, the way it's beautiful. So many scenes that throughout this movie are beautifully shot. I loved some of the perspectives that she took from the scenery and the cinematography of it, with the upside down stuff. At first was a little bit, that kind of is jarring, but then at the same time, it's visually beautiful. And I don't want to give any part of the plot away, but really wasn't that much plot involved, right?
Yeah.
So
It's front ended with plot.
that's
So-
that's the downside of this movie, is that it's very thin from a plot
Mhm.
perspective, and
Yes.
it goes in different directions. So I think you could kind of do some interpretation yourself of what's happening. But the reality of it is, I think you have to kind of give that up, because this movie makes no sense in that sense, in many ways, but it's still beautiful. So many parts of the opening sequence, after they get out of the grave, it's beautiful. Just the different scenes.
The grave's kind of well
taken
shot too.
there.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, they're all.
Mm.
It's pretty impressive. The suicides, when they depicted suicides. The
don't
one
wanna-
in the bathtub.
Don't want to.
beautiful.
I don't want to spoil anything. Anyways, here's a bit from the last 5 minutes
but
of the
is
movie.
it wasn't the end. It didn't end that way. But the one in the bathtub
Uh-huh.
with Sarah Hay that
Mhm.
plays Tilda. Yeah.
Mm.
And the casting of this was really good too. Madeline Brewer may truly be crazy.
Mm.
She played Daphne, and she had insane down pat, I would say,
Yeah.
in this
Mhm. Yeah.
movie.
So you like the
And then
movie a lot.
Imogene Waterhouse. I don't know that I would say I liked it a lot. It was just visually was beautiful.
Mm.
I really thought it was beautiful, and I love the relationship between these three characters. I think it really kind of nailed that whole concept of with the relationship, the female relationships. I think it really nailed that part of it too.
Cool.
At the same time, if you knew what was going on in this movie, you're a better person than me. Because I think half of it was dream and fantasy, the other half was crazy.
You think you have a clear understanding of it, I would say up until until like the very end,
the third act.
Yeah, until the third act, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
One more thing.
It's
I have
completely
to say
understandable
this.
up to that point.
I thought it was going to be
Scott-
more of a commentary on sex work, I guess, and then it just kind of divulged into mental illness with friends,
Yeah. There's some really corruption, I guess, between the three of them. But the surprise to me was Scott Cohen. He's a great character actor. I think he's got 193 credits. He's all over the place. And he always plays like a detective or a mafia role or lots of guest roles. Let's see, he was the lead in The 10th Kingdom back 100 years ago. You probably didn't even see that. He was also in Necessary Roughness as a recurring role, but you have seen dozens of movies that guy is in. And it was kind of nice and comforting to see him show up. Because then you think, okay, maybe I will now understand this movie, because I understand this actor and I understand the role he usually takes. He's a detective, so here we are. And then he drives the police car that looks like it's from their youth.
Yeah.
And that's when I went, oh. I think
He's
this is
driving
not
a
gonna be
police
what I
car that had to be from Dragnet or something.
Yeah.
He's
from when they were little girls,
Well,
Just
even
like, okay,
before
they're
that,
adults.
it's like a old yeah. I mean, it's like I was like, what is going on here? And then the fact that it's from the youth and he's still driving around in it. Anyways, I would say this movie takes so many swings. It's a bold film. And I think you have to applaud it for swinging for the fences with every decision it makes. I think when a movie is this bold, it is a very it's. A lot of movies are so sort of sanded and just nothing. They don't take any bold chances, and so there's just a long plateau of just meh that a movie can be when it doesn't take chances. But when something's this bold, it's a drop off. There's a razor edge where I don't, and I do think it falls slightly on the end of I liked it. At the end of the day, not. It teetered. It could have teetered the other way, but it just ever so slightly. It's going to be in my rankings at the end of the season of everything that's good is going to be better than this movie. Everything bad's going to be on the other end of this film. So I think I lean on the fact that I do think I liked it ever so slightly. There's a little bit of praise that I have there. But I thought the biggest redeeming quality of the film is the cinematography is excellent, especially at this production range. It is incredible. The handheld stuff in the beginning, I have one of my few notes about this film is I love handheld stuff. Some people probably don't, but I mean a lot of people don't. But the train, the way they're on a train and it's like moving all crazy and everything, I love that. And then the opening, the opening shots were beautiful and haunting, and then there's just quite a few different shots whenever she's on the drugs, and then the color goes out and it's the bright pinks and stuff. Like, that's all cool. And then the one shot that really I really liked is when they're in that pool and they're doing the operation scene, and it's all that like 50s jade color. You know, it's all that it's that color, and it's just beautiful and haunting. And then when the blood comes, that's all I love. I love a good stab scene where blood flies onto people. That's
that's
in cinema.
Splatter. That's good.
In cinema, that's what I live for, is a good just flinging of blood on people's face and everything. Like, that's what I want in the walls and everything. And that satisfied that.
I don't even want to be an extra in one of your movies. there would be stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I love that.
I agree, Kate. I thought it was beautiful, and I would love to see that house on House Hunters, so we could see more of it. It was beautiful. In fact, I was going to look up to see where in the world they filmed that, because it is beautiful.
I loved all the colors they used too. I think like throughout the entire film, like especially when they did like PCP, you know, on accident, maybe on purpose, and all of that like super intense color saturation, I felt like carried through to even the parts where they were like not on drugs, and really nicely, and all the like rainbow lights and all the different bathrooms kind of that was touched on. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful film.
I mean, this is one that I don't typically do this for things, because I don't think it's really good to sort of understand how it comes from a filmmaker. But this is an odd one of like, I do struggle with like, how does one come up with this as a storyline? I don't know, because like it's so weirdly specific of like of setting it, like if the whole point was to get to, we're going to do this make-believe world inside of I want to explore like trauma from like, you know, like childhood trauma, and how we like, I assumed it was going to be like them taking some sort of personal responsibility for how this happened, because it seemingly happened from the fall. Like, I thought that was what was going to be explored, and I thought that was going to be the whole point of the film. I mean, that's been explored in films and stuff, you know, before, of like, you know, what sort of responsibility do you have for what an accident in childhood that you've had, you know, like, and I was like, that's a meaty sort of theme that you can explore, and like, you know, and everything, and them feeling somewhat responsible for, but no, it doesn't really end up being about that, which is, but seemingly, like, why else would you set it in something like that that's so specific, highly specific, and yeah, I don't know. The choice is to make it like the reason that they go back, like, is just to get money, and then the whole clues on the walls. I don't know what this movie. There's so many weird little things. That I yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the game, right? This is a game that they've been playing for years and years and years, and the reality of it is, it's not Petulia. How'd you say? How was that character's name said?
Petulia.
Petulia. Yeah, I never quite got it. When they would say it, I didn't quite hear it that way. But anyway, that she was not in.
Petula.
The other two were Petula. Yeah. So
I thought it was, but who knows?
I don't know.
Anyway, for Daphne and Tilda were in on the game, right?
Well, yeah, at the end
was not.
we realized that at the end,
Right.
or at the beginning of the third act, or whatever you'll say. Yeah,
And it's been going on for years and years and years, and that they just keep playing this game back on her over and over, and it'll continue on until they are old women, if they survive it. Anyway, what did you?
In theory, I understand what you're saying. In practice, it's kind of it's still I don't exactly know the whole mechanics of how that all works and everything, and to what end all this is for,
Well, I don't know that it has it for, right?
Okay,
I didn't get one.
Okay, good.
Other than that, it's the nightmarish side of female relationships or female friendships.
Mm-hmm.
That they could do this to each other, or at least to one of them. Although they are all doing this to each other. Okay.
And that they
piece of paper because it's loud.
No, I like that idea, and the idea that like there's some people like you think you're in the in group, but then the other friend like is actually going behind your back with the other one. Like, I think that there's something interesting there if it was explored any more than just as like a weird twist at the end of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it really was like a weird twist. I was so confused when the redheaded character just kept like doing things against the grain of what the initial plan was, for the other one. I don't know. So that did throw me off for a loop, and then it's like they just continued to switch sides, kind of like a love triangle. I don't know.
And then what was real in the end? I mean that's fine. I mean, I understand movies do that where, what's real and what's not and everything, but it was just, that was at the end of the day, why did we carve their faces? I don't know. and why did they go away? And why did the policeman, what was real with that? Or what was even the point of that character at the end of the day? I don't know. It made sense until the twist part. And then it's like, I can't follow it, but it
was all a fantasy.
Yeah.
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 It was all a dream.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
It was all a dream.
Mm-hmm.
All a childhood dream.
Mm-hmm. So when were they? So how old were they when they were? So because this police car bothered me as well. So
yes,
when does this all take place, and when were they kids, and what that whole thing bothers me. And then his age never changes. Like all that's kind of
I think that's some of the hints, right?
True.
When you see him when they were little girls, right? Mm-hmm. And he's driving the same police car, and then you see him when they're grown up, 20 years later at least, and he looks the same and the car's the same. That's when you know, okay, now I'm not in reality. He's not a real person now. I think the movie tries to give you hints. It's just they're not good hints. They're kind of hints you have to think about later. You know what I mean? So the plot-wise,
there are scenes that's from his perspective, though. That it makes it very. That's a rule that you break if that's the case. Like, that's the part that I'm like.
You're looking for rules, Cade. Again, I'm not sure you're going to find any. Not in this movie, anyway.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure you're going to find any rules in that sense of the word. Mm-hmm. But anyway.
So are they? So is she the crazy, the quote unquote crazy one or whatever? Is that Daphne's the main? Was that her name? Or is that
Daphne?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she is also insane, or is she sane? Okay. So
I think
they're all three freaking insane.
Okay.
They're all insane. It's all made up.
They're all insane.
For no particular the hint is
from
that something.
9 years old till they die.
But they gave a reason for her as why that she went crazy, and then because from this fall, but they never gave any. They just happen to be three random strangers that have some sort of problems. I don't know if they're
supposed to be like linked in trauma,
Mhm.
forever. So it's like part of, I don't know, it wasn't explored very well, like you said. So it's like it's hard to. I'm just pulling
Mhm.
straws. I'm grasping.
So
I
there
have no
are,
idea.
I think one of the things is there's these childhood drawings on the refrigerator. That's only in one scene, but they say that this is why they don't have strangers, and they show them in the childhood drawings essentially killing a police officer and throwing away his car. So that happens. Like, what is that? Did they do that as kids? I don't know. Did they? I don't know. Or is this just
Okay,
part of the
so
ritual that they have every time? Is that they supposedly? I don't know.
the same
I-
people are in the fantasy or that they replay over and over and over again, right? And
Yes.
the reality is, what we witnessed was at a point in time one game out of their series of games that they're playing, right?
Yes.
So you really do at the end, right, when it
Mhm.
shows the old woman and she's got the broken dishes, yada yada yada. That's possibly reality right there.
Or
That's
it's
how old they
repeating
are.
again, or it's that's another
Yeah, or
round
that's
of the
how
game,
long they've been playing.
or that's the next
But
round.
This is their the reality is they are old. That's why the
Mm.
car is so old.
Mm. That's a good
Yeah.
way of putting it. Yeah.
Get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So,
thinking.
do they kill a police
course,
officer in
that's-
one of the actual real things, or do they, or is that just part of the always a part of the
knows?
hallucination?
I think he's
They leave
always
it
part of the
up in the air.
hallucination because he was in the real,
Okay.
because he was in that when they were little girls. He was just a character that was in their lives, and who knows if they kill him every time or not. But they didn't kill him as little kids. But he's a character that's part of this little tiny segment that they're reliving over and over again. I don't want to say reliving, that they're creating a fantasy of over and over. Right.
Which is interesting. That's all very interesting. That's. You're right. I think that is the
What'd you
right
think
reading
of
of
the
it.
cast? What did you think of the cast? I mean, I talked a little bit about Madeline Brewer, who plays Daphne, and she truly, I firmly believe, may be crazy.
Mm.
I don't think that was all acting there.
She did a
Little
good
scary.
job, for sure.
I think at
She made a
times
believer of me.
these actors look a little too Hallmarky for me. All of them look a little bit too Hollywood, or whatever looking. That's my problem of it. But
Yeah, Madeline
Like,
Brewer is,
squeaky clean?
she's from The Handmaid's Tale.
I don't know. Just have a
They're a
look.
little too washed. Madeline Brewer's from The Handmaid's Tale.
Mhm.
She has a role
Yes.
in The Handmaid's Tale. Sarah Hay, who played Tilda, she was in Black Swan, and she won a Golden Globe for Flesh and Bone, which is about a ballerina.
Interesting.
Miniseries.
Because even like
And
the
then
homeless
Imogene
guy,
Waterhouse.
his beard was too manicured. Like everybody just looked a little too, nice.
But they weren't.
The
but it
guy,
was a
the police
dream.
officer. I mean, I guess.
It was a dream. It wasn't.
I know, but then why is it the house?
real.
If that was the, I don't know. Give me a little bit, realism, a little bit. But
Pretty.
yeah.
And
That's
then
just me.
Imogene Waterhouse, who plays Attila, she is from Nocturnal Animals and The Outpost.
Yes.
And I think, isn't it Suki, her sister, the one that's dating Bradley Cooper, or was? Well, anyway. So you're right. It's kind of Hollywood.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Surprised Lady Gaga wasn't in this movie. Is that Hollywood?
This is
She
a
was
very low. This is like a C-list people come out to make a movie, and it turns out fine. But I mean, I don't mean to disparage them, but just don't bring Lady Gaga into this.
It's a Bradley Cooper connection. It's a Bradley Cooper connection, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
6 degrees of separation.
Of Cooper, yeah.
Of Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't
Well-
know if he's still dating her or not.
Anyone have
now
any,
I have to know.
Anyone have any other notes that we haven't brought up about this film?
I think
don't
we
know.
talked about how beautiful it was.
Yeah, cinematography's great.
Coloring. Yeah, that I was surprised you didn't talk more about that because I was like, oh man, Cade loves this film.
Yeah, it leaned over on them. I mean,
Just
that's what pushed it over the edge, over ever so slightly, a step over, the razor's edge of I liked it. Was I think the cinematography of it all. But even then, it's like I don't know. That's not enough to
the
say
reality
completely.
you could watch this movie without the sound on. Listen to a book and just visually watch this movie and enjoy it just as much.
Yeah,
You say?
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Plot wise, dialogue wise. I mean, I love the white dresses.
I don't know if it would hold my
Sorry, the
attention
white
just
dresses.
having silent images for an hour and a half. But
Well, if you were doing something else.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It seemed to kind of rely just on that and not like follow through. I feel like with plot in any other way. You know what I mean? Like it just seemed to lean too heavy on that, which I love. I enjoy that about films. I like when films take risks, like visual risks like that, but it doesn't it doesn't save it if the rest of it isn't like substantive. You know what I mean?
There for you.
So do you think in this situation when she's directing this film that she wrote, so she knows what this is all about and everything and what she's saying and everything, does she clue the actors into like, here's the whole thing, here's what the audience isn't having, so that they can understand how to portray this whole thing, or do they also not understand the film that they're in? What is your...
You would have to ask them that question.
I'm not what you all guessed.
If they didn't know what was happening, I feel like they did a good job of, like doing that. They especially the blondes. I feel like she did a great job, like seemingly being clueless of like their cycles repeating, and even the fact that if they were making up the detective, like she was not in the know of that. I think she did a convincing job of playing that sort of like unknowing, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, Diane, would you recommend this movie, and what would you rate it?
Would I recommend this? I think I would recommend this movie for fans of horror. If you're truly a horror fan, plot's not important. Never has been. Never will.
No,
be.
that's not
Right. So, I mean, as long as you get that
this is
blood
so
splatter,
odd to be like Diane being. I mean, okay, go ahead. Saying okay.
I would recommend it for people who are fans of horror.
I know, but you're not a fan of horror.
You get that whole blood splatter deal, right? I'm not. But it wasn't insufferable in that sense, right? Let's face it, a lot of horror movies are insufferable. Kind of like stoner movies. They're just oh, please let me get this over with. But this one wasn't. This one held my attention.
Well, it sounds like it's not from a horror perspective. You don't like horror, and you like this movie, so that wouldn't be from. You wouldn't be saying. I
didn't say I like the movie. I said I recommend the movie for fans of horror. Now, if you're not a fan of horror, I don't recommend this movie. I actually told David, do not watch this movie. Mm-hmm. You will not like it. Even though I'm pretty sure.
So you didn't like it?
A lot of the scenes in this movie, David would find as beautiful as I did. Mm-hmm. I know she would. But she would hate the movie because...
So personally, did you like this movie?
Me? Did I personally like this movie? No, I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it.
So you didn't like the movie?
I would not watch it. I wouldn't watch it, no.
Okay.
And I wouldn't recommend it for anybody who isn't a fan of horror.
Bizarre argument. Okay, what would you rate it?
I'm going to give it some pancakes. If you could write on the top of them, that would be even better.
Okay. So this is the movie you're giving pancakes. You could have given pancakes to both films.
I know I could have, couldn't I?
Uh-huh.
But then that would be boring.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Sandwich made much more sense than the other one. Because it was sandwich like gigantic. I mean, I never saw a sandwich that big.
Diane is able to recommend a movie from.
That's right, Ava.
Okay.
It's because I'm old.
Spencer, would you recommend this movie, and what would you rate it?
It's so interesting hearing your argument, Diane. I would consider myself a huge fan of horror, and I would not recommend this. I would just not recommend this. I feel like it doesn't even do. I feel like it casts its net so wide that it doesn't really do any justice to the horror aspects of it. Anyway, all of those kind of fall flat because you're like, are they even real? Is any of it actually like happening to these people other than the push out of the treehouse? So it becomes like really like fluffy to me as a fan of horror because it's not like there's no like that grounding in reality that I really like about most horror. And I like psychological thrillers too, but I feel like it like falls more into that category than it does like pure horror. I would not recommend this. I thought it was not well paced. I thought the plot has some serious, just vague, like ambiguity to it that it doesn't seem like done in a way that works for me. I like movies can be ambiguous and like be open ended, but I don't feel like this one did it in a way that was enjoyable to watch. Even if I don't know. Yeah.
And what would you rate it?
Well, now I'm glad that you. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, yeah. I would rate it 2 PCP out of 10 PCP hits.
Cool.
Just 2? Oh, I thought the coloring was a little more than 2, but just in my experience.
So PCP be the little pill things? What would you do for? Okay,
yeah,
great.
that's all you could do is the little pills.
Okay, great.
So, as a fan of horror, you really didn't care for this movie. See, now that changes my perspective because I am not a fan of horror, so I'm just like guessing if it has blood, if it leads with blood, then it must be a horror movie. So fans of horror movies like movies with blood, right? That kind of thing. But thank you for your perspective because I did not think of it from that perspective at all.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I wouldn't recommend this movie to any of my friends. Let me put it this way. They would laugh at me.
Yeah, I would say I would agree from the horror perspective. I wouldn't recommend this to horror fans because the shocks, the horror aspects are few and far between. I don't know who I would recommend this to. I guess I wouldn't recommend this to pretty much anybody, but I think as far as like from a doing what it has with its budget, with the type of camera that it has, like it is on the better end of like these red box rentals. We always talk about the look of these red box. This is how you color grade a film. This is how you have a unique sort of look of how you make a film. It's how you shoot a film whenever you have this sort of budget. It is excellent from that perspective. It's truly amazing what they were able to do visually with this film. That being said, it's nonsense movie. It was a nonsense movie, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I did Razor's Edge like it. At the end of the day, it was I thought it was I would never recommend you to watch this movie, but I did like it. So whatever you want to make of that weird two things, I gave this movie Police Car. So.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it kind of like an Asian country.
It kind of felt like it was trying really hard to be an A24 film, if that makes and like, but without any of the payoff. Like it felt like it felt like a bad A24 film.
That's a good way of putting it. Other film was an A24 film.
We've seen some pretty bad A24 films. So.
Diane and I have been moving our way through A24's catalog.
Like gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, but there's something missing.
Yeah, I definitely could have used someone to be like, okay, what are you trying to do here? Because I watched the whole movie and I still don't know what the point what at the end of the day, thematically, what are you trying to make me feel, and what am I supposed to get from this? Because already, I must say, I'm losing this film. As far as like what happened in it, I can feel it just being deleted out of my mind. So whereas I still remember very specific, like Upstream Color, I think was a worse film, but it had interesting themes and it had stuff that will stick with me, and stuff that it was saying, which movies should have. And horror movies should have. I think they should be about stuff more than that. Well, great. We will. That's unless anyone has any objection, we'll go to preview time. We'll do our little musical interlude, and then we'll give a preview of what's happening next week here on Double Feature Movie Club.
And now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Okay, let's take a look at what's coming your way. Next week here on Double Feature Movie Club, it's... So sorry, Diane. Next week here is horror. It's a horror movies.
Yay!
I assumed you would have had you would have considered this week a break, because you had a nice comedy, but you end up despising that experience. So I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's just where I'm at right now in my life.
So I do apologize. So sorry about that, but next week we have 2 horror films. The first one is called You're Next. It is a modern slasher film. So slasher genre. Gotta love slashers. I don't think Ava will be watching next week.
Get that blood splatter.
Get that blood splatter. They're wearing masks. I don't know very little about this movie, but there's masks, and it's a slasher film. It's from 2011. Do you know where people can find that one, Diane?
Well, you can read it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
It's on Stars.
Stars. Okay.
Stars.
Yeah. I don't know why I said it like that, like
We
old
haven't
Hollywood.
Stars in a while.
All the stars and celebrities are out tonight. Yeah. Oh, great.
Those are my favorite voices you do. Okay.
Just comes out sometimes. And then the second film we'll be watching is called Barbarian Sound Studio, which is it's a horror thriller, 2012. It stars Toby Jones, which is interesting. That's interesting, like a modern horror starring Toby Jones. That's fun. I find that fun. And it's set in a recording studio, a Barbarian Sound Studio, perhaps.
So this could be similar to the one with the band that gets caught behind in the white supremacist camp. What was it called? Green Room?
The Green Room?
Green Room.
Could be.
We watched Green Room before. Oh, look at there. Barbarian, I'll answer it, Diane, is on Tubi. Tubi.
Yay. If you're watching Tubi, we are giving you more credit for great movies that you guys have available.
Tubi, if you're watching.
Sponsor them. Yeah.
Yeah, sponsor us, Tubi. We'll do all Tubi movies. What we love about Tubi is it's a mix. It's certainly a mix every time of if it's good or bad. I have good feeling about these films.
You never know.
I have a good feeling.
I went to see what other films Peter Strickland has written and directed, and do not recognize a single one. So it's going to be a new person for me, which is not a surprise, since I don't go out of my way to watch horror movies. Mm-hmm. Although, anyway.
It's a psychological horror movie. It's set in a 1970s Italian horror film studio. So it's probably going to pull a lot from Giallo and things like that. So that's fun.
And shag carpeting.
And so Peter Strickland will be one of his other films will be later in the. We're also reviewing that later in the.
So we're doing more than one of his.
Yes, we are. Later in.
Did we just get lucky?
We just got lucky. Well, so yeah, watch those. One's on Stars, or you can stream it. You can rent it from any of those streaming platforms, and then the other one's on Tubi. So we'll see that. That is called Your Next and Barbarian Sound Studio. Spencer, we're so glad that you came here and joined us today for this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was a net positive.
It was fun.
I did. I appreciate being on again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We hope to have you. We need you back.
Mm-hmm.
I can't,
season.
Do this. Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be as soon.
I would love to come back. I would love to do a trivia night, eventually. I think that would be super fun. I'm just happy to be here. Honestly, it's great to talk about these movies.
We're definitely gonna drag you out to trivia. I think you'll love it. You'll have fun. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at it.
We
I got like art, movie, music, trivia. Ooh, I'm pretty good at it.
We always need music people.
How do you feel about having the elemental table tattooed on parts of your body? We're considering it.
We're considering it to have matching. Well, not matching, different sections, so that we
different sections. Yeah. The table of elements, like on our arms.
Because that is a big glaring spot, blind spot of ours.
Right, just right on the knee. You can look down, table, see the
face tattoos. Table. I think we all get face tattoos.
Face?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we do face.
Yeah, forehead. We each get part of it on our forehead so that we get to look. We have to have.
Yeah. I don't think so. You do it right here, though. Well, right here.
Mm-hmm.
We could get sleeves.
True.
Yeah.
Just look at
it. We also need maps. Yeah. We need maps too, tattooed. We should each get, like a something. Yeah. Because geography gets us every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But periodic table is a big. I mean, we don't know enough about science things, so big problem. So if you know any scientists,
that's it. Bugs and birds, I can probably help out with, but that's not it.
Yeah, they really want you to know the elements, and we refuse. We every time we'll just take the L on this one, I guess.
We object. That's funny.
Well, great. Yes, we'll have to have you on next season again because we enjoy having you, Spencer, and it's fun. And I enjoy talking these movies. As you can tell, sometimes we disagree, and so that's always fun. Yeah. Well, where can people?
Well, if everybody liked the same movies all the time, we'd be watching Marvel movies all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, we're luckily we're not
tired of Marvel movies.
Yeah, luckily we're not a podcast that goes and does that. I mean, I think it's fun that we get to pull these odd little films that no one's talking about currently, like that have been out for a few years and have made it onto lists. I mean, we're talking interesting films every time they're interesting. Whether it's they do some interesting things that you can talk to. I mean, there's a lot of movies now that you just be like, yeah, that was. I had a fun time, I guess, watching them. I mean, there's not much more you can say about a lot of films that are released in theaters and people talk about. Yeah, like Marvel movies. So Spencer, where can people find you online?
You can. So I'm on I'm on all the socials. I have my Instagram is @Spencer.Plumlee. My Twitter is @Spencer_Plumlee. And then my website, you can see most of my work, www.spencerplumleeart.com. There's another person with my name that's a doctor, pastor. That's not me. Okay. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Well, you can't go into that field now because there's already that Spencer
As a
Plumlee's
doctor,
already
pastor.
cornered the market on there.
He took SpencerPlumlee.com, so I had to put the art.
Oh, that's not fun.
I know, but it's just funny. It's just funny.
Do you think that this doctor pastor would know Elements? You think that they could join our team? And
he probably could. One time, this is a random side tangent. One time I messaged him when I was like I don't know, 15 on Facebook, because I found him and we had the same name, and I was just like, hey, isn't this weird? You know? And he was like, yes. And that was it. And that was the entire interaction. Then I blocked him, I think. But yeah, you know, early internet things.
Yeah. So he just said the word yes.
Yes. That was it.
What a great conversation. What a great well,
I love your Instagram page.
Thank you.
I love your Instagram. I just was looking through it when you said it. I thought, I want to get out there and follow her. So I love your art.
Yes.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
And I love that there's murals
yes,
that you can find.
Yes, you guys should go see them in person and tell me what you think.
Okay. I want to go to the art market.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to plan some things. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you're watching our live stream, you can always listen to our podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Next day, Monday mornings, Double Feature Movie Club. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you can join our live streams, typically Sundays at 6 p.m. Central. And that's a fun place you can hang out and chat, like Ava does, and talks with us and anybody. It's a great way if you watch the movies and you can chime in with your opinions and everything. Also, follow us at Double Feature MC. We're on Twitter and Instagram, and we publish some other content there that's related to these stories, including 60-second reviews of these. So that will be, if you want to see that, that's really fun. We have fun time with those. Well, once again, thank you, Spencer, for joining us. Diane, always a pleasure to talk films with you. We'll see you all next week.
Cade.
Yes. We'll see everyone next week for more horror films here on Double Feature Movie
More
Club.
horror.
Yay!
See ya. Bye.